Hi, I'm Jill from June Tailor, and I'm so excited to show you our new crossbody tote. Isn't this adorable? This tote features a front zipper pocket that when you open it up is fully lined, great for your car keys, and it also has a top zipper pocket, and that opens the main part of the bag. Inside, there is a pocket up here that is perfect for your cell phone or car keys or something you need to grab quickly. The bag comes in a kit, and the kit includes printed stabilizer. This is sew on the line stabilizer, so very easy project, along with 2 of our zippity-doo-done pre-sewn zippers. So the zipper's already sewn in for you. You're just going to insert your project into the zipper casing and top stitch. So there's a zipper here on the front pocket and one across the top. And of course, it includes written instructions. But best of all, stay tuned following this because we have a step-by-step sewing tutorial. We're going to take you through the whole process from cutting the fabric all the way to finishing it step by step. Let's get started. When you open your kit, you're going to have a set of instructions. You're also going to have 2 of our pre-sewn zippity-doo-done zippers. And then this is the important part. This is the printed stabilizer. And this is what we are going to use to construct our tote throughout the whole process. What you'll need to purchase for this kit are 2 swivel hooks, 1 inch, 1 slide buckle, also 1 inch, and 2 half-inch D-rings. For now, let's start with the fun part, and that is the fabrics. So what we want to do is select our fabrics, and before we cut them, we want to make sure that we press and starch them. Get them nice and stiff. We like our quilter starch savvy. It goes on without any odor. You let it soak in and then just press so that if your fabrics are going to shrink, they do at that point before you start constructing your tote. So what I have decided is that I really like that plaid front pocket. So that plaid is the main fabric and the red is my contrast fabric. I'm also going to use red as my lining. So to start out, I'm going to need a contrast piece of fabric for the body A side of our tote, and I've automatically cut a matching lining piece for that. So these are cut 12 inches by 13. And then for the back side of my tote, this will be what's facing the back, and I've also cut a lining piece for that out of the red as well, 12 by 13. And then you're going to need your front zipper pocket, and again my plaid will be that front zipper pocket and a piece of lining, and that is cut 7 by 11. There will also be an inside pocket to your tote, and we're using this cream colored fabric for that because I thought it would stand out nicely against the red. That's cut 6 by 11. You will then cut 2 by 2 squares, and those are going to be used to cover your D-rings. And lastly, your straps. Well, you will cut 2 strips at 4 inches by the width of the fabric. And I'm going to do the red straps on the tote. Once all your fabrics are starched and cut, you can begin. For body pieces A, B, and the zipper pocket, trim around the outside edge, leaving about a ½ inch extra margin. For the inside pocket and the straps, trim right on the line. So starting with body side A, we've got our cut stabilizer, and we're going to get our fabrics. Now it's side A because A has the pretty pocket on the front. So what you actually see, of course, is the top edge when it's sewn. A is where I have my contrast fabric, and I chose to do the red as the contrast fabric. So you're going to layer your contrast fabric and the lining right sides together and put the body side A stabilizer on top, and then you want to pin that in place through all layers. You can pin a few on each side and down at the corners, because once this gets pinned, we are going to go to the sewing machine and we are going to sew right on the dotted line. So now I've got my contrast piece, body side A, done, and now I'm going to do the body side B. And that's actually going to be the back of the tote. In the back of the tote, I am going to have my plaid fabric facing out. My lining fabric again is the red. So you're going to layer those two right sides together and lay your body B piece over the top and pin all 3 layers in place. And then we'll go to the sewing machine again and we will sew on the dotted line. We're going to begin sewing on the dotted line and go all the way around. We begin by back tacking and then follow that dotted line. And then we're going to back tack at the end. And we will repeat the same for the second, which is body side B, sewing right on that dotted line. Our sewing is done on the dotted line, and now we're going to trim on the solid line all the way around. When we're done trimming, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to clip out those corners so that when we turn right sides out, we're going to get a smooth and rounded corner on our tote. If you have a snips like this, it's really handy to use when you want to trim those little triangles. You want to be very careful that you do not get close to your stitching. So just a little tiny little strokes to make sure you get the corner, but you're not interfering with your stitching lines. And you're going to do the same for body B side of the bag. Now that both our body pieces are done, we're going to turn right sides out. So this happens to be the back of the bag with the lining. And when we get to those corners, make sure that you get them nice and pulled out. If you want, you can even use something that has a little bit of a point to it to make sure that you have those corners pushed out. You can take a dull pencil, put a piece of fabric around it, and just go ahead and insert it in there until you see that nice rounded corner. You're going to repeat that for both sides, and then you're going to take your iron and we're going to press these and so they're nice and flat. Both our pieces are now turned right sides out and they're pressed. At this point, we're going to set our body A and body B piece to the side, and we're going to get our front zipper pocket. So we need the stabilizer and we need the lining fabric. And what we're going to do is take the wrong side of the lining fabric and the wrong side of the stabilizer and secure those two together. You can use a glue stick, quilt basting spray, or pins, but since this is really a quick, easy job, I'm going to just use our glue stick. So our glue goes on purple, it dries clear. So now wrong sides are facing each other, and I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to make a stitch all along the edge of the blue line, just to the inside of it. We're ready to begin sewing just inside the blue line all the way around the 4 sides of the zipper pocket. We're actually going to be using the back side once this is stitched to help us center the front of the pocket. So you may want to use a contrasting colored thread. I'm using black thread today. Our zipper pocket is now sewn to the lining, and you can see the black stitching marks on the outside. We're going to now flip it over to the printed side, and we're going to take our front zipper pocket fabric, which is the plaid. We're going to set it on here, pin through all layers, and once we have that done, we are going to go back to the sewing machine and we are going to sew again, now this time through all 3 layers, right back over on our stitching line. So when I turn this over, I'm going to be following that black stitching line all the way around. Back at the sewing machine, we're going to flip over and we're going to sew right on top of the black stitching that we initially had done. Our stitching is done, and now we are simply going to trim close to that stitching line, all the way around all four sides. Let's turn that over, and this is our front zipper pocket. Working with right side up, we're now going to attach our first zippity-doo-done zipper to this front zipper pocket. So simply open the casing on Zippity and insert your pocket top right inside the casing like this. You can either glue or you can pin to hold in place. I'm going to put 2 pins in like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew right on the edge, very close to that outer fold line of the Zippity casing. Now we're going to be sewing right on the edge of Zippity, very close to that folded edge of the casing. Our Zippity casing is sewn close to the edge. Now normally when we work with Zippity-Doo-Done, we put the other side of our project in the top part of the casing. But the way this tote is constructed, we are not going to do that. We're actually going to end up sewing that shut, and then we are eventually going to attach that right to the contrast body of our tote. At this time, however, if you want to embellish the casing of Zippity, you can. You can add machine stitches on top of the casing, like we've done here with that decorative machine stitch, or you can add rickrack, ribbon, or what we sometimes like to do is add a piece of fabric that blends well with the 2 pieces on the top and the bottom. And that's what I think we're going to do today. So I have cut 2 strips that are 1.25 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to turn over to the back side. I'm going to fold under about 1/4 inch on each side and press. And then we're going to top stitch that right to the top of Zippity. So here's my 1.25 inch strip. And again, I'm going to just press down about 1/4 inch on each side. And that will make my decorative fabric trim that's going to go on top of Zippity. So let's just bring that back down here. Just set it on there for a second. So I'm actually going to change the thread in my machine so that I'm stitching with this cream colored thread, and I'm going to attach 1 strip to this side of Zippity, and then I'm going to take another strip, press it up, and I'm going to attach it to the other side of Zippity. I've got my cream strip centered on this side of Zippity, and I'm going to go ahead and top stitch close to the edge. If the Zippity pull gets in your way, put your needle down, lift your presser foot up, and just run the zipper pull down a little bit. But make sure you don't pull it all the way off the edge of Zippity. Keep it as centered as you possibly can. Now we're going to embellish the other side of Zippity. Again, this casing is open at this point, but we will be sewing it shut when we put this decorative fabric on. So you want to center that fabric, and I always work on the zipper side first. Center it on there, put your needle down, and sew close to the edge of that decorative strip. My zippity is attached, embellished, and now I'm just going to trim the edge of zippity and my little decorative strips here so that it's flush with each side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take, this is our front of our contrast A, and we're going to just set this right on top like this and pin it into place. And the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to top stitch over the top black edge of zippity. So right along the black top edge of zippity, we'll top stitch that in place, and then we're going to just run a securing stitch on the outer edge all the way around the front of our tote bag. I think it's worth mentioning that I did change my thread color back to black because I'm going to be top stitching on this edge of zippity, so I wanted black thread in there. So it's as simple as that. We are actually now just top stitching over the edge of zippity. You can back tack a little bit. So this is a loose edge at this point, and this will secure our front pocket kind of in the center. Now I'm going to stop here, put my needle down, pivot, and what we're going to do now is simply just make a stitch all the way around the outer edge of the bag, and that will also go over the zipper foot, making sure that our zipper pull won't come off. The front of our tote is now done and secured. Let's open the zipper and look at that. You can see your outside pocket is perfectly lined and finished off. So what's going to happen is that this side will then marry to this side eventually, and then you'll see that your back and your front will have that beautiful plaid pattern on. For now, let's set that aside. And what we are going to do is work on the second inside pocket that goes on the back of our bag. So for that, we are going to take our contrast fabric, which is our 6 by 11 inch rectangle, and we are going to fold it in half, right sides together. Give it a little press. And then what we're going to do is take our inside pocket stabilizer where we cut on the line, and we are going to attach that to our folded pocket and make a stitch 1/4 inch in on either side. So you can either pin it on or you can use your glue stick again, set that on here, go back to the sewing machine and run 1/4 stitch down each side. You want to put your presser foot down about 1/4 inch away, and definitely back tack here. Turn it the other direction so that we can get the other side. Now we're going to find the top fold of our pocket, and close to that stitching line on the top, just make a snip on either side so that when we turn right sides out, we won't have any bulk there. So find your right sides, turn your pocket inside out. That is going to have the stabilizer now in the center, and we'll get those corners nice and crisp and square. And when that's done, we're going to give that pocket a really good press. And that is going to be our inside pocket. So again, we're working on the lining side of the back, and that's going to be positioned like this when we're done. But we want to center it about 7 inches down. So put your ruler, the top of the tote bag at the 7-inch line of your ruler, and center that. So there's going to be about 2 1/4 inch on each side here. And we are going to make a mark like this. There we go. And now we're going to take our pocket with the raw edge on the line. We are going to line that up and sew 1/4 inch. And then when we're done, we'll be able to just flip that pocket up and we'll have our finished folded edge up here. So make sure your raw edge is here and your folded edge is down here. Line this up and sew 1/4 inch. I'm ready to sew about 1/4 inch in from that raw edge. I do have black thread in my machine, and that's okay with me because the back side of my bag has black in. But you may want to change the thread in your bobbin if it's going to show through on the back and you don't like the thread color. Now we're going to flip that pocket up like this. So now our folded edge is at the top. Let's give it a good press. Our side edges are all finished off, and we will be stitching, top stitching right along here. And remember to back tack when you get up here so that it's nice and secure. And when we have that done, this will be your inside pocket. Perfect for your cell phone. All right, let's just top stitch close to the edge. And we're going to back tack up here so that this is nice and secure. And we'll do the other side. And then our internal pocket is complete. Our pocket is sewn on both sides and at the bottom, and that folded edge is on top. So now we want to give that a good press. And this assembly makes the back side of our tote, which is done, and of course we have the front side of our tote done. Now let's move on to the D-rings. For our 2 D-ring holders, we had cut 2 2-inch squares. So what we're going to do now is take those 2-inch squares and we're going to fold in half, wrong sides together, and press. And when we do that, we create a center pressed reference line. So that's our center line where the fold is. Now I'm going to open that right back up, and I'm going to fold wrong sides together on each side toward that center pressed reference line. So on each side, fold toward the center and press. And then fold that in half again so all your edges are finished, and give it a good press. When we get done pressing, we'll take this to the machine and we will sew across the 2 long edges with a top stitch. I've changed my thread color out to red, and now I'm going to sew on the 2 long edges of these D-ring holders, straight stitching close to the edge. Now that my 2 D-ring holders are sewn, you're going to take them, run the tab through the flat end of the D-ring, fold it over like this, and simply secure on the raw edges for both D-rings. And now we have our covered D-rings. Now it's time to put the zipper in the top of our bag. So working with right sides up, which means the front of our purse and the back of our purse, we are going to install the second zippity-doo-done zipper. And again, we're simply going to start with the front side. So open up the casing and nest the front side of the purse in the casing. And we're going to run a straight stitch along here, and then we'll come back, open the other side of zippity, and put the right side of the back of the bag in there. And this is the one time we're going to want to make sure we line up these side edges under the zippity casing. So let's do one side at a time. We'll do the front side. I'm going to pin this in place, and we'll go to the sewing machine. We're ready to top stitch our zippity casing. So my bag is nested inside, and we're going to just simply top stitch on the close edge of the folded zippity casing. Now let's turn the casing to the other side, open it up, and put right sides up the back side of our bag in here. Nest that in the casing, and we really want to make sure this edge and this edge are perfectly lined up. And then we're going to top stitch that casing close to the folded edge of zippity. Now at this point, our zippity is installed. If we wanted to, we could add more decorative fabric, decorative stitches. We could embellish this casing. I'm going to leave mine just as is. Since this is a lot of busyness going on here, I'm going to leave as is. But what I am going to do now is I'm going to sew over the zipper track right here just to make sure that that pull doesn't fly off. And to do that, I'm just going to make a straight stitch and then back stitch a few times when I get to the zipper portion. I'm going to do the same on the other side, just to make sure again that that pull doesn't come off. With zippity now installed, we're going to simply trim the edges so we have a straight edge on the right and on the left, and I don't have to worry about the zipper pull coming off because I've already done a stitching line along here. Now we're going to take our D-rings and we are going to pin them into place on top of the zippity casing. Either side will work. I'm going to put them on what I see as the front side of the bag, and we're simply going to pin them in place and top stitch, and the other one as well. And when we get that done, we will fold our bag right sides together, matching the zipper edges and the bottom, and we will sew all the way around the edge of the bag in a 1/2 inch seam allowance. We'll start at the top of the zipper, back tack around, and back tack at the end. With our D-ring toward the center of the bag, we're going to top stitch on the edge. With our D-rings both attached, what we're now going to do is open our zipper pull on the top about 1 inch or 2. And that way, after we're done sewing, we can turn right sides out. You also want to go and make sure that on your front zipper pocket here, that the pull is in the middle so that you don't accidentally have it on the right side or the left side when you're sewing. Now you're going to fold right sides together, and we are going to stitch starting at the top of the zipper and back tacking a 1/2 inch all the way around the edge of the bag. So right sides together, line up the two sides of zippity, and you want to put a pin to start holding that in place. And you can pin all the way around the edge here and sew in a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I've got my pins in and I'm ready to sew my 1/2 inch seam allowance, starting with the zipper around the edge. When our bag is sewn, we've turned right sides out, and make sure we get those corners pulled that are nice and rounded around the edge. And then we can go ahead and give this a good press. We'll starch it a little bit, put our zipper pull off to one side, and give it a final good press. And then we're going to take our straps, and you'll notice that there is a dotted line on the end of each one. We're going to overlap that dash dot line like this, and we're going to zigzag over the top of that so that we are actually connecting the two strap pieces. So I'll put a pin in there for now so we can get it over to the sewing machine, and then we'll do that double zigzag stitch. And And let's take our strap, and we have overlapped those two. So I am going to put on a zigzag stitch, put my needle down, can remove my pin, and then go ahead and zigzag twice over the overlap. And then pull up the two sets of 4-inch strips that we cut. And what we are going to do is combine those two strips into one long one. So with right sides together, we're going to lay the two strips at a 45-degree angle like this. Give it a little press. And then what we're going to do is mark a line and sew from here to here, so we have that nice 45-degree angle. So you're going to take a ruler and go from corner to corner and draw that 45-degree line. Let's just put a pin in there to secure that in place, and then over to the sewing machine to sew from here to here. All right, let's sew on our diagonal line, back tacking at the front and the end. Now what we're going to do is trim this to about 1/4 of an inch and then press that seam allowance open. Our strap is zigzagged together on the stabilizer, and we have our long piece of handle material now stitched together. So we're going to open that seam allowance and just press that flat. I would go ahead, turn it over, and just press it one more time. And then we're going to take this strip and we're going to trim it to 60 inches. I've got my 60-inch strip. On the short ends, I'm going to press under a 1/2 inch, wrong sides together. And then I'm going to fold my strip in half on the long edges, wrong sides together, to create a center reference line. So we're going to use that center fold line when we're done pressing this strip. All right, we're down to the end of the strip. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. And then what we're going to do is open the strip up and fold raw edges in again toward that center pressed reference line. So you'll press on one side, come back, and then press down the other side toward the center. And now we'll go ahead and press the other side toward that center reference point. Now we're going to open up our fabric strap and take our stabilizer strap and nest that in the center. So it doesn't need to be right on our folded pressed edge here. Go in about 1/4 of an inch like this and just center that stabilizer material. And then we're going to fold this all in half over the top. And we're going to fold again one more time, right sides together. And then we're going to top stitch on both sides all the way down the long edges. Now we're going to top stitch on both long edges right toward the outside fold. Your slide buckle has a right and wrong side. The shiny side is right in the center. When I turn it over, you can see that there's a dull side on the back. That's the side you want to have facing up. Push that slide toward the back, lift up the buckle, and feed your strap through like this. Fold it over once, and fold it over again. And when you fold it over the second time, that is going to put that finished edge in the center, and then we're going to double stitch or zigzag stitch right over that fold line. Okay, my zigzag stitch is on. Let's back tack. And your strap is attached. Working on the top side of the slider buckle, so this is the shiny side, you want to go all the way to the end and take your swivel hook, and you're going to feed it down through here like this and bring that end all the way back around toward the slider buckle like this, and then take that end, move the slider down, bring this end up through so it's next to your other piece of fabric, pull it through like this, then move the slider back like that, and then feed the end through there. And that is what makes this slide. So let's just pull this, and now it's flat on both sides. Now we need to finish off this end, so we're going to take this end, put it through our second buckle, fold it over again like this, and we are going to stitch it down. Our strap is done, and our last step is to take the swivel hooks, open them up, and attach them to the D-rings on the side of the bag. With our straps attached to the D-ring, we can now adjust the slider buckle to actually make this fit our shoulder perfectly. So just experiment with that a little bit. But your tote is done. Your front zipper pocket is beautifully lined, and then your top zipper opens here. And again, we have that nice pocket on the inside for your cell phone. You're all set for your next outing.